Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different and we're going to keep it kind of short. We're just going to talk about kind of the process of getting your models from something like battle ready, like our Tyranid on the left here, to something a little bit more polished and kind of closer to parade ready, and kind of a few tips to go along with that. So first and foremost, just for the sake of time, we're going to be demonstrating a few of these techniques, but we will be focusing on this already mostly finished model just for a little bit of a time-saving method. So first and foremost, you can see already there's a couple of really big differences. With your standard kind of battle ready, I believe the definition is 3 colors and a base at minimum, right? And this guy actually has 4 colors if you include the kind of pink wash. But this guy, I believe, altogether has about 8 colors, including he has a little bit of Corax white on his teeth, which, if you want to count that, sure, I believe that brings it up to 8. And he also has a wash applied to his base and a little bit of edge highlighting done. Now, a very first kind of basic and most easily accessible tip I can grant you is that you want to do just as much cleanup work as you can. And when you first kind of finish with your base layers, what you'll notice is that you have a lot of little mistakes. And on their own, they're not very noticeable, but if you kind of take a bigger look at your model and you take a step back, you'll notice that they do add up very quickly, and in a large amount it can bring the quality of your model down pretty heavily. So something just to focus on here is, say, like this little area where I was trying to do the contrast paint on his exposed vein, right? If that's what you want to call it. Just going and cleaning up a little bit of where we spilled over already kind of helps out with that. And of course I'll have to go back and fix where we just covered our wash. And we'll do that kind of everywhere that we see just a little bit of, where our paint wasn't perfectly applied. Like the back of the head, and if you really get into the nitty gritty of it, you can see even kind of under the shoulder plates here. And just fixing all of this will bring your model to a much better place generally. And you can see kind of immediately it does help our overall feel, right? Just to kind of clean up that base coat. And it's very gradual. As you fix each and every mistake, it will slowly kind of bring your model into a better place. But that's the easiest way. And if you do very thin layers, it's very easy to go back and fix everything. If you go with thick layers, your paint is really going to build up very quickly, and it's going to make your model look very bumpy. So it's kind of best to avoid that if you can. And kind of going on the back of that, another very easy way to kind of make your model pop a little bit more, especially just adding bigger or more base layers, is just adding more colors, right? And you don't want to go too overboard with it, but you do kind of want to take away from the kind of blandness that your model has if you only go with the 3 or 4 recommended colors, and you start adding more and more, especially for the little details like the tongue and the teeth. If I had yellow, I would add it to the eyes, but that would bring us up to about 9 colors total, right? And that's kind of a lot if you think about it. If I did more edge highlighting on these kind of blue panels and the gun, I mean, that'll bring us up to 10, 11 colors. If I add another wash, that brings us up to 12. There's really, it's hard to hit kind of an upper cap on that, but it's something to think about. If your model looks dull to you, just try adding some more colors. And that kind of brings us on to our next point. And this is kind of the hardest tip that I can offer you. It's very time consuming, and overall it's kind of a pain. Try not to peek the microphone as we close this. But edge highlighting is something that really makes your model kind of pop. But it is kind of difficult to do. Once you get the hang of it, it gets kind of easy. But it still remains pretty time consuming. And you can see I've kind of done it on all of these little purple, scales, chitinous, whatever you want to call them. But just going ahead and finishing up here, I'll kind of demonstrate what I mean by this. It helps if you use a very thin, very small brush. And because we're kind of on the edge of our model, where we're going to apply this, we can kind of just do a little bit of a technique here where you use the kind of edge of your brush and very lightly just press that on right where that scale kind of ends at. And you can use this kind of anywhere where you have a little bit of a raised edge, and it drops down immediately below it into a recessed area. Makes it very nice and easy to do. And we might go one more pass over that very quickly just to kind of make it a little bit more defined. And it's a little bit more difficult to do the farther in you go on the body with these scales. So that's why this is kind of a technique is very nice, but it's not always kind of an option you'll have open to you. But there is a second way you can do this, and it's much more tedious. You have to be much more careful with it. But essentially you just very carefully kind of use the end of your brush, and we'll kind of try to show it off here at the end of the tail. And just very carefully try to just paint on a little bit of an edge. And let's get a little bit more on our brush here to demonstrate this. This is going to be where your cleanup kind of comes back into play, because this is somewhat difficult to maintain if you have shaky hands. And you can see it's going on a lot kind of cleaner than I thought it would. But you'll definitely have to come back and do some cleanup if you make any mistakes on this. Lord knows I made plenty. But overall, that's probably the kind of biggest change you can make to your model, and it is the most time consuming, but it is the kind of most noticeable, and I feel like that's a really big step to getting you to kind of parade ready. One more thing you can do, and this is kind of the last tip I have. I haven't actually done it on this model just because I don't really want to mess with the contrast I have going with all the bright colors, is adding a nice wash. If you're doing something like Space Marines, there's always non-oil or Agrax Earthshade, both really good recommendations in my opinion. On the base, I did use Agrax. It helps kind of give you a little bit of texture going on top of what I already had. But it really helps kind of bring out the differences between the recesses and the raised up areas of your models. So that's just something to think about. Definitely something that if you're not going with contrast and you're going for kind of more muted, more earth tone colors, is a really easy way to make your models pop. And with all that said, I do want a quick little shout out for my Patreon. If you like these videos and you want to see more of them, link is in the description. All of it helps me out very much. Other than that, though, that's pretty much all I have for this. Again, it's just a quick little tips and tricks kind of video. So I want to thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more of how I got this original kind of paint scheme going, I do have a tutorial on my channel already. I will link that in the description or just at the end of the video somewhere. But other than that, I just want to thank you guys very much for watching, and hopefully you'll join me for the next one.